Oh, sure. Right, yeah. That takes all kinds. Hello there. How are you? Come and have a drink with us. Did you know that the Old Bushmills Distillery is the oldest active distillery in Ireland? Yeah? It's the only one still working from the 18th and the 19th centuries. Bushmills whiskey is a living, breathing thing. And it's made by processes that have been passed down for all generations. The people who make Bushmills have always prided themselves on their questioning mentality. Inquisitive, but not nosy, you understand me? And this is what maintains the whiskey's individuality and quality. You see, Bushmills is, now how can I put it? It's an enigma of a whiskey, and I'll tell you why. The story of Bushmills whiskey stretches back as far as the history of whiskey itself. North Antrim and the area around Bushmills has been proudly called the cradle of Celtic distillation. Well, the legend has it that in the 1300s, an apothecary by the name of Pernod Ricard I used his knowledge of the Arabic distillation of perfumes and essences to create distilled spirits for the first time in Ireland. And now we're very grateful to that man for what he did. But unfortunately, being a learned man, like a lot of learned people, he was a bit careless. And in fact, I'm told that he was instrumental in spreading the distillation techniques across the sea to Scotland, allowing them to make their own type of whiskey, which of course our American friends refer to as Scotch. Anyway, around 1276, our ancestors placed a lot of faith in what they called aquavitae, or ishkabaha, or as we know it today, whiskey. Indeed, a fine figure of a man rejoicing in the name of Robert Savage, he was the ground landlord of the town of Bushmills, was known to have fortified his troops with aquavitae before sending them into battle against their foes. Would you believe that? Bushmills even got into the Book of Leinster. There was a great fete here in the town in 1490 when the spirit was used to down the food. Another fine tradition that has gone on now for decades. Of course, the drink itself clouds those tales of local whiskey that stretch back into the mists of time. Whiskey-tinted glasses, you might say. Now, the first documented example of whiskey in the Bushmills region is 4 centuries old. On the 20th of April, 1608, one Sir Thomas Phillips was granted a license to distill in the area between Bushmills and Coleraine. 3 other licenses were granted, but none of these have made such a significant impact on whiskey distilling as Bushmills. One of the first testaments to the quality of Bushmills was in 1612, when the Lord Mayor of London, no less, Sir William Cockayne, he was so devoted to this wonderful product that he was willing to sell land in order to raise the money to import Bushmills into London. And it's said that it was the first time ever that the people of that fair city really enjoyed themselves. 1743 is the next date we have for Bushmills, when it was recorded as being in the hands of smugglers. Well, you see, the north of Ireland was a wild place in those times, and there were men who just didn't like paying the taxes for the drink that they loved, that is. So they went underground and they supplied it and they drank it out of the sight of the law. In 1784, Bushmills whiskey returned to full legal form. It is registered as a legal distillery, and the pot still device becomes the distillery's trademark. By that point, Bushmills is making 10,000 gallons of the finest whiskey a year, most of which is exported to the West Indies and America. In 1887, Alfred Barnard published a book giving his account of all the distilleries in England and Ireland. And having visited all 27 other Irish distillers, he is convinced that Bushmills celebrated whiskey is made at, no doubt, the oldest distillery in Ireland. And that, as we say, is the start of a beautiful future. And what about the future? You see, Bushmills is a distillery that challenges convention. When all others gave up the malt barley because of the very high taxation, Bushmills stood true to the grain. Like no other distillery, Bushmills do everything under one roof. The distilling, the maturation, the blending, the bottling. All done here and always will be. Now they say it's the only way to get true quality, and that's what makes Bushmills unique. And I say, personally, it's the taste. No, it's all true. No, Bushmills is a survivor. It'll be here long after we're gone. And of course, they tried to stop it, you know. Oh, yes, they did. When was it? Oh, yeah, Man and God. They tried to stop it. It was a terrible fire here at the distillery in the year of, what was the year?
1885.
1885. Here's a woman who knows everything. And listen to this. The fire brigade were so worried about the fact that the whiskey might get destroyed that they forgot to bring their hoses. Would you believe that?
Get away with yourself, Peter, you old fool. Stop messing with these lovely people. Sorry about that. He likes to tell the odd tall story after a glass or two, you know?
Well, they're all through now.
What was the story about that young Brendan on his travels?
Yeah, Brendan, he met this beautiful girl, Lizzie, up at the causeway, and all the young bucks in the town were after her, and he was in love with her, but he didn't see he was going to have much of a chance because he didn't have very much money, and he decided the only way he could possibly do it was to go off to the New World, make a lot of money, and come back and marry the girl of his dreams. And he went off home to get a few bits and pieces, and of course the mother was broken-hearted when she heard this. Oh, she was in a terrible state. Terrible way, I know. But the father, who was a clever man, he wasn't too concerned because he knew that wherever Brendan went in the world, he would be able to get a drop of Bushmills, which would remind him of home. And that's the wonderful thing about this drink. Did you know that before Prohibition, it was the most popular whiskey in America? And indeed in the entire world. But I'm sorry, I digress. Getting back to Brendan, after he left, he never got in touch with the family again. He was never heard from. Fate unknown.
Sure, God love him.
Yeah. And you know, they say that Lizzie still waits for him up at the causeway.
Yes. To Brendan, wherever he may be.
To Brendan. Now let me tell you how the whiskey of Bushmills is made to perfection. The uniqueness of the malt whiskey distilled in Bushmills lies in the character of the barley grown in Ireland, in the special waters from St. Colum's Rill, a tributary of the River Bush that runs beside the distillery, and of course its distinctive triple distillation process. The barley is first germinated under spring-like conditions and dried in closed kilns without the use of peat smoke, giving it an unpeated taste, free of the smokiness present in Scotch whiskies. And this process is called malting, and it gives rise to the term malt whiskey. The water for the making of the whiskey flows over basalt, the volcanic rock that forms the famous Giant's Causeway, just a mile away from the Old Bushmills Distillery. The master distiller of Old Bushmills regularly assesses the taste of the maturing whiskey. A hard task, you might say, but somebody has to be lucky in life. And when completely satisfied, he will assemble in a vat, according to a secret formula, precise quantities of whiskey from different casks. And during vatting, these whiskies are allowed to marry to achieve the ultimate aroma and taste, which is characteristic of each brand. The whiskey will then be bottled, ready to be enjoyed anywhere around the world. Especially here, huh? Listen, it was lovely to meet you, and I hope you enjoyed your visit. And if ever you come this way again, come and see us, because we'll definitely be here, right? It's a promise. Listen, I have to go now to meet my granddaughter up at the causeway, all right? And I'm sure there'll be a little drop of Bushmills waiting for me.
You've been up in the distillery telling your stories again then.
Hello, darling. Any news from Brendan?
Go away with you. Sure, you only left this morning. Come on.
Now, always remember, history is there to be made. So like Bushmills, make it well.